I felt his eyes on me the moment I pulled into the car wash bay. The afternoon sun blazed overhead as I stepped out of my sedan, and there he was, tall, broad-shouldered, with that easy smile that made my pulse quicken in ways I hadn't felt in years. Randy was at work, probably closing another deal, completely oblivious to the fact that his wife was about to make a very different kind of connection. The young man approached with confident strides, his uniform clinging to muscles that suggested he did more than just wash cars. "Afternoon, ma'am. What can we do for you today?" His voice was warm honey, and I found myself lingering on every word. Before we dive deeper, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes, and your support means everything. I should have just asked for the basic wash and been on my way. Should have kept things simple, professional, normal. But something about the way he looked at me, really looked at me, like I was worth seeing, made me want to stay a little longer. "I think I need the full service," I said, my voice carrying just enough suggestion to make his eyebrows lift slightly. "The works." He grinned, and I felt that familiar flutter in my stomach that I'd almost forgotten existed. "Name's Jax," he said, extending a hand that was rough with honest work. "And you are?" "Selena," I replied, letting my fingers linger in his grip a moment longer than necessary. The contact sent a small shock up my arm. "I haven't seen you here before." "Started last month, just moved here from Denver." His eyes traveled over my car, then back to me. "This your regular spot?" I nodded, suddenly aware of how my sundress clung to my curves in the humid afternoon air. "Randy, my husband, he usually brings the car by, but he's been working so much lately." I let the sentence hang between us, heavy with implication. Jax's smile turned knowing. "Well, lucky for me, he's busy today." The way he said it, direct, unashamed, sent heat pooling low in my belly. It had been months since Randy had looked at me with anything approaching desire. These days, he was all business calls and late, nights at the office, leaving me feeling invisible in my own marriage. But here was this man, young and vital, making me feel seen in a way I'd almost forgotten was possible. "Let me take care of you," Jax said, and the double meaning wasn't lost on either of us. "Pull her around back. I'll give her the personal touch." I followed his directions, my hands trembling slightly on the steering wheel. The back section of the car wash was more secluded, shielded from the main road by a concrete wall covered in faded advertisements. As I parked, I caught sight of myself in the rearview mirror, flushed cheeks, pupils dilated with something that definitely wasn't just the bright sunlight. Jax approached with a spray bottle and cloth, but his attention wasn't entirely on the car. "You know," he said, running the cloth over my hood in slow, deliberate circles. "I've been thinking about you since you pulled in." "Have you?" My voice came out breathier than intended. He moved to the driver's side window, leaning close enough that I could smell his cologne mixed with the faint scent of summer sweat. "Beautiful woman like you shouldn't be doing errands alone on a day like this." The compliment hit me like a physical touch. When was the last time Randy had called me beautiful? When was the last time he'd noticed me at all? "My husband's been distracted lately," I admitted, surprising myself with my honesty. Jax's hand stilled on the window. His loss. The simple statement carried such conviction that I felt tears prick at my eyes. "Mind if I ask you something?" I nodded, not trusting. My voice. "When's the last time someone made you feel special?" The question hung in the air between us, loaded with possibility. I could lie, could pretend my marriage was fine, could keep up the facade I'd been maintaining for months. Instead, I found myself saying, "Too long." Something shifted in his expression then, the playful flirtation giving way to something deeper, more intense. "That's a crime," he said softly. "Woman like you should be worshipped every single day." The word worshipped sent a shiver through me despite the heat. I watched as he continued washing my car, his movements becoming almost caressing as he worked the cloth over every curve of metal. The way he touched my car was how I wanted to be touched, with attention, with care, with genuine appreciation. "You're good at that," I observed, my voice husky. "I'm good at a lot of things," he replied, meeting my gaze through the windshield. "Some things I'm particularly talented at." The suggestion in his tone made my breath catch. "Such as?" Instead of answering immediately, he moved to the passenger side, his hands gliding over the surface with practiced ease. "Making people feel good," he said finally. "Making them forget their troubles, making them remember what they've been missing." Each word felt like a caress, and I found myself shifting in my seat, the leather suddenly feeling too warm against my skin. "That sounds nice." Nice is one word for it. He paused in his work, looking directly at me, but I prefer unforgettable. The confidence in his voice, the promise implicit in his words, it was intoxicating. I hadn't felt this Alive, this desired in so long that I'd almost forgotten what it was like to be wanted. Really wanted, not just tolerated or taken for granted. Selena, he said my name like it was something precious. I finish up here in about an hour. There's a supply room around back where we keep the equipment. If you wanted to, wait for me. There. The invitation was clear, and so was the choice I had to make. I could drive away now, go home to my empty house, and wait for Randy to come home late and exhausted, probably falling asleep in front of the TV without so much as a goodnight kiss. Or I could take this moment, this connection, this chance to feel alive again. I should go, I whispered. But even as I said it, I made no move to start the car. You should, he agreed, but his eyes said something entirely different. Question is, do you want to? Did I want to? God, yes. I wanted to with every neglected, frustrated part of my being. I wanted to feel hands on my skin that were eager to touch me. I wanted to be looked at like I was a prize instead of an afterthought. I wanted to remember what it felt like to be desired so intensely that someone couldn't keep their hands off me. Where's this supply room? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. His smile was triumphant and tender at the same time. Around the corner behind the main building, blue door. It'll be unlocked. I nodded, my heart hammering against my ribs. How long do I have to wait? Not long, he promised. But it'll be worth it. I guarantee it. The next 45 minutes crawled by like hours. I drove around the block twice, stopped at a coffee shop for a drink I didn't want, checked my appearance in every reflective surface I could find. My phone buzzed with a text from Randy. Working late again. Don't wait up. The casual dismissal of my evening, my presence, my very existence in his life only strengthened my resolve. I deserved better than this. I deserved to be wanted, to be chosen, to be made to feel like the most important person in someone's world, even if just for an hour. The supply room was exactly where Jax had said it would be. The blue door was indeed unlocked, opening into a small space filled with cleaning supplies and equipment. A single window let in filtered afternoon light, and someone had left a small radio playing soft music. It was humble, unglamorous, but somehow the clandestine nature of it made my pulse race even faster. I was checking my reflection in my phone camera when I heard footsteps. The door opened, and Jax stepped inside, his uniform shirt already partially unbuttoned. In the confined space, he seemed even larger, more imposing, and the scent of his cologne mixed with honest sweat made my mouth water. You came, he said, genuine surprise and pleasure in his voice. I almost didn't, I admitted. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. What changed your mind? You, I said simply. The way you look at me, like I'm worth seeing. His hands came up to frame my face, thumb stroking over my cheekbones. You are worth seeing. You're worth everything. The kiss, when it came, was electric. His lips were warm and insistent, tasting faintly of mint and coffee. I melted into him, my hands fisting in his shirt as he backed me against the wall. Every point of contact between our bodies felt like fire, awakening nerve endings. I'd forgotten I had. God, you're beautiful, he murmured against my neck, his lips tracing a path down to my collarbone. So beautiful, it hurts to look at you. His words were like oxygen to someone who'd been drowning. When was the last time Randy had said anything, even close to that? When was the last time he'd touched me like I was precious instead of convenient? Jax's hands were everywhere, skimming over my curves, threading through my hair, tracing patterns on my skin that made me gasp and arch against him. He touched me like he was mapping territory he wanted to remember forever, like every inch of me was fascinating and new. Is this okay? He asked, his fingers playing with the hem of my dress. More than okay, I breathed, surprised by my own boldness. What followed was a symphony of sensation. His hands were skilled and sure, finding every sensitive spot that Randy had long since stopped bothering to discover. He worshipped my body with a reverence that made me feel like a goddess, like I was the most desirable woman who had ever lived. The small room filled with the sounds of our shared pleasure, soft moans, whispered endearments, the rustle of fabric, the rhythm of bodies moving together in perfect harmony. He was patient where Randy was hurried, attentive where Randy was, distracted, generous where Randy was selfish. When he knelt before me, his hands gentle on my thighs, I thought I might shatter from the intensity of his focus. He looked up at me with eyes dark with desire and said, "Let me take care of you." And he did. Oh, how he did. His mouth was magic, his hands were poetry, and the way he held me through each wave of sensation made me feel cherished in a way I'd almost forgotten was possible. I had to bite my lip to keep from crying out his name, my fingers tangled in his hair as he brought me to heights I hadn't experienced in years. When it was my turn to return the favor, I did so with enthusiasm born of genuine desire rather than obligation. Everything about him was different from Randy. Younger, firmer, more responsive. The sounds he made, the way his body reacted to my touch, the genuine appreciation in his eyes, it all fed something hungry inside me that had been starving for attention. We moved together with an urgency born of stolen time and forbidden desire. In that small room, surrounded by mops and cleaning supplies, we created our own world where nothing existed but this moment, this connection, this perfect storm of chemistry and need. When we finally came together completely, it was with a desperation that spoke of long-denied hunger finally being fed. He filled me perfectly, moved with a rhythm that matched my own, touched me like I was something precious he might lose at any moment. Every thrust sent sparks through my entire nervous system. Every kiss tasted like freedom. Every caress reminded me that I was a woman worthy of desire. "Look at me," he whispered, his forehead pressed against mine. "I want to see you." Our eyes locked as we moved together, and in his gaze I saw everything I'd been missing. Passion, appreciation, genuine connection. He saw me, really saw me, and what he saw made him want me more, not less. The climax, when it came, was earth-shattering. Years of tension and frustration released in waves that left me trembling and gasping his name. He followed moments later, his body tensing as he buried his face in my neck, my name a prayer on his lips. Afterward, we held each other in the dim light filtering through the small window, both of us breathing hard, both of us aware that this moment would end soon, but neither wanting to be the first to acknowledge it. I started, then trailed off, not having words for what it was. "Incredible," he finished for me. "You're incredible." The compliment sent warmth spreading through my chest. "So are you." We dressed slowly, reluctantly, both of us knowing that once we walked out of this room, reality would intrude again. But before I could leave, Jax caught my hand. "Selena," he said seriously, "I know this is complicated. I know you're married, but I need you to know. This wasn't just about having some fun for me. This meant something." I looked up into his earnest face, seeing sincerity there that made my heart ache. It meant something to me, too. He pulled out his phone, quickly typing in his number and handing it to me. "In case you ever need your car washed again," he said with a small smile. I saved the number under Jack's car wash and slipped my phone back into my purse. "I should go." "I know." He kissed me once more, soft and sweet this time. "But I hope I see you again soon." The drive home was a blur of conflicting emotions. Guilt warred with satisfaction, fear battled with exhilaration. I felt more alive than I had in months, but I also felt like I was walking on the edge of a precipice. One wrong step and my entire life could come crashing down. When I pulled into my driveway, Randy's car wasn't there yet. I had time to shower, to wash away the evidence, to compose myself before he came home. But as I stood under the hot water, I could still feel Jax's hands on my skin, still taste his kisses, still hear the way he'd said my name like it was sacred. Randy came home at nearly 10, distracted and tired as always. He kissed my cheek absently and asked if I'd had a good day. I told him I'd run some errands, gotten the car washed. He nodded without really listening, already reaching for his laptop to catch up on more work. As I lay in bed that night, Randy, snoring softly beside me, I stared at the ceiling and thought about everything that had changed in the space of a few hours. I thought about Jax's hands, his mouth, the way he'd looked at me like I was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. I thought about the number saved in my phone and wondered when, not if, but when, I would use it, because this couldn't be a one-time thing. What I'd experienced with Jax wasn't just great intimacy, it was a reminder of who I used to be, who I could be again. It was a glimpse of what I was missing, what I deserved, what I'd been denying myself in the name of a marriage that had stopped nourishing me long ago. 3 days passed before I couldn't stand it anymore. Randy left for work with barely a goodbye, and I found myself getting dressed with unusual care, choosing a sundress that skimmed my curves and showed just enough to be interesting. I told myself I was just going to get coffee, maybe run some errands, but I knew where I was really going. The car wash looked the same in the morning light, but my heart raced as I pulled in, scanning for Jax among the workers. I spotted him, near the vacuum stations, his uniform shirt already damp with sweat from the day's work. When he saw me, his face lit up with genuine pleasure and relief. "Thought you might not come back," he said as I approached. I couldn't stay away, I admitted. Surprised by my own honesty, his smile was warm and knowing. "Car need washing again already?" I glanced around, noting the other workers nearby, the customers coming and going. Actually, I was thinking more about that supply room conversation we had. Heat flared in his eyes. My breaks in 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes felt like an eternity, but when we finally found ourselves alone again, the connection was even more intense than before. Familiarity bred not contempt, but hunger. We knew now what we could do to each other, how perfectly we fit, together, how incredible it could be. This time, there was less urgency and more exploration. He took his time mapping every inch of my skin, learning what made me gasp, what made me arch against him, what made me whisper his name like a prayer. I did the same, marveling at the differences between his body and Randy's, at how responsive he was to my touch, how he made me feel powerful and desired and utterly feminine. When we came together again, it was with the desperate hunger of two people who had found something precious and rare and couldn't bear to let it go. He moved inside me with a rhythm that spoke of genuine desire rather than duty, touched me like he was afraid I might disappear, kissed me like he was trying to memorize the taste of my lips. "I can't stop thinking about you," he confessed afterward, his arms tight around me. "I know the feeling," I replied, because it was true. He had gotten under my skin in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. "When can I see you again?" The question hung between us, loaded with implication. This was the moment where I could make it a one-time mistake, could chalk it up to temporary insanity and go back to my life of quiet desperation. Or I could admit what we both knew, that this was the beginning of something dangerous and wonderful and impossible to resist. Soon, I heard myself say. Very soon. Because the truth was, I was already addicted. Addicted to the way he touched me, the way he looked at me, the way he made me feel alive in my own skin. Randy had turned me into a ghost in my own life, but Jax made me feel real again, vital again, worthy of desire and passion and attention. I knew it was risky. I knew I was playing with fire. I knew that if Randy ever found out, it would destroy everything. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was truly living instead of just existing, and that feeling was too precious to give up. As I drove home that morning, Jax's number burning like a secret in my phone, I realized I had a choice to make. I could continue this dangerous dance, risking everything for moments of stolen passion. Or I could try to rebuild what Randy and I had once had, if that was even possible anymore. But as I pulled into my empty driveway and walked into my empty house, the answer seemed crystal clear. Randy had stopped seeing me long ago. Jax saw me, wanted me, made me feel like I was worth the risk. My phone buzzed with a text from Jax. "Already missing you, can't wait to see you again." I smiled as I typed back, "Tomorrow?" His response was, immediate. "Can't come soon enough." And just like that, I knew I was in too deep to turn back now. Whatever came next, whatever the consequences, I was going to grab onto this feeling with both hands and hold on tight. Because for the first time, in years, I felt like myself again. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Is it wrong to reach for happiness when your marriage has become a ghost of what it once was? Tell me in the comments. I want to know your thoughts on love, loyalty, and second chances. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. Real stories about real people facing impossible choices. Hit that notification bell so you never miss what happens next. Trust me, this story is far from over.